Hey YouTube, it's raining here, and I want to make a video to follow up on some questions or comments I've had from other videos. First of all, I'd like to say that I appreciate everyone that watches these. You know, not everyone's going to agree with me, of course, and everybody has their own situation, and I'm not trying to undermine or give anyone, you know, actual advice to them, because I don't know you specifically. I don't know what your lifestyle and what you've been through and all that sort of stuff. So these videos are clearly just a gauge for my own recovery and the things that I've been through, and I'm hoping that other people can draw some parallels or some hope throughout some of my experiences, because I found out that when you meet somebody that's been through similar things, it's very helpful. It really is. So anyway, without further ado, I want to talk about a few topics today. The first thing I want to address that I don't think I've ever really talked about, I don't think, I may have, but is a sort of quick review on gabapentin or Neurontin. Now, gabapentin may have saved my life. Seriously, okay, so when I got off Xanax, I was having extreme burning, extreme anxiety and panic, and just a lot of horrific things. It was pure hell. But anyway, I was like, I'm not going to take that. I tried some supplements, I tried everything, but I was in so much agony. The burning I was feeling all over my body was just enough to drive any sane man insane. So it's like, well, how do you really, can you really heal from things if you're going through so much increased anxiety and depression? I mean, that's sort of the rub here, isn't it? I mean, I hear comments about people who tough it out for so long, and I tried, but it was either, honestly for me, suicide or trying gabapentin. I had a bottle sitting on my shelf for a while. I tried 2 months without taking anything, and finally, my biggest fear outside of the medication itself was that I would take it and then it wouldn't work, because it was like a last resort. And I remember trying to run, trying to do all these things, and just hitting my knees and crying, just couldn't take anymore. Couldn't take anymore. So I popped on to the gabapentin, and maybe, I think this sounds familiar, I might have discussed this in another video, but I got up to like 800 milligrams, and the burning started to go away, and then all of a sudden I found myself able to do a lot of things that I couldn't do before, even while I was on the Xanax. So I didn't like the way it made me feel, all in all. I mean, I know it sounds weird with what I just said. Yes, I love the way that it helped me, but after a certain amount of time, I realized I felt really manic on it, and I didn't like that. I didn't have really any side effects other than I just felt dull and just kind of out of it, I guess like a little bit drunk, but not to the point where it impaired me in any real way. But I've heard of people being on thousands of milligrams. Anyway, so I currently take about 300 milligrams a day, and I haven't come off of it 100% yet. So I also want to address, the next thing I want to address is how, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, I've been anti-medication for a long time. A lot of people get better through natural supplementation and lifestyle change. Not everybody, unfortunately for me and maybe you, but not treating anxiety and not treating depression, because I finally went back to a psychiatrist because I'm like, you know, life is short. I mean, it really is, and spend so much time suffering, and that's what the psychiatrist said. She said, well, you know, I have so many patients that do well. Why? You've been putting yourself through this. You've been depressed since you were a child. You've been through so many anxiety. And oh yeah, and I just want to mention that too. I've had people comment that I'm causing more damage than I'm helping. Well, in my case, and in some people's cases, what is it? Death is probably more damaging than medication. So, in extreme circumstances, medication can save lives for sure. And if you've watched some of my earlier videos, I was very, very against that. So, I'm not a medication pusher by any means. I've actually helped a lot of people get off medication in my own circles, and are doing really, really, really well. Like my brother, who's doing extremely well on a combination of SAMe, NAC, and what is the other one? Theanine. So yeah, I'm super jealous of him. But depression can cause shrinkage in the brain, in the prefrontal cortex. Anxiety can as well. These things can completely obliterate your adrenal glands. So most people who are suffering from anxiety are already suffering from adrenal fatigue. So if you really start to look at the damage caused by untreated anxiety and depression, and I'm not saying you have to treat it with medication, but if it goes on for so long, and that's what my psychiatrist said, and she's very smart, and I had refused to go to a psychiatrist for the longest time, but finally I went, and she's told me that, and she showed me the studies. So I started looking into the studies, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't really realize that, and that really kind of changed things. It made things way more complicated, because I sort of was like, oh, well, if I just stay off meds and get off meds, and one day I'll just feel great. But that's not always true. And if you're in a consistent state of anxiety and depression, if you're not changing anything, it's very, very unlikely you're ever going to feel well. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that you would. So as far as that goes, I feel better today than I did before I took benzos. Before I took them, I had to like drink alcohol at like 13, 14 to even, you know, have a good time. But I went through depression most of my life, and yeah, the benzos helped with the panic attacks when they started manifesting. But I don't have panic. I haven't had panic since I got off the Xanax. So yeah, so I mean, so just understand that I feel better today than I felt before I ever took a benzo. And there are tons of people out there that have never taken a benzo. I've talked to thousands of them who literally are dealing with debilitating anxiety, depression, depersonalization, all kinds of issues, chronic pain, and they've never taken a benzo. So it's not, benzos don't necessarily cause everything. There's other causes to these things than benzo. So I think a lot of people get wrapped up in that. You know, they get so horrified by these horror stories online, and for good reason. I mean, benzos are not great. Take other things. There's other things that can help. So I just want my listeners to understand that, because it's maybe they didn't know that, and maybe that'll put things in perspective, at least from my standpoint. So I've chosen to live, and I've chosen to try to do whatever means necessary to have as many good years as I can have, because like I said, I'm 32 now, and I've been dealing with debilitating pain, depression, and anxiety since I was 23 years old. Started about 1 week after I graduated college. So, and then it's been a shitstorm ever since. And then when I started taking the lamotrigine, I started to feel happiness and emotion for the first time possibly my entire life outside of alcohol. So I just want you guys, you know, to understand that. And I struggle too, because like I'm on 50 milligrams and it's not really doing a whole lot, but I'm slowly going up to, I think I'm cutting one in half and doing 62.5, and my goal is to get to 100 to at least try that out. It has been my goal, but you know, I've been taking a couple other supplements that are actually helping too. Not obviously curing me, but taking the edge off a little bit like that. So another huge thing I want to talk about real fast is sleep. I've mentioned this before. Sleep by itself, or lack of sleep by itself, can cause depersonalization, anxiety, depression, irritability, mood swings, chronic pain. I mean, good Lord, if your body's not getting the deep sleep, then of course you're not going to feel well. So to that point, a lot of medications can disrupt the sleep architecture, and that's one of my main concerns about Lamictal, because I have noticed that since taking it, no matter what, I wake up like very, very early in the morning, like 6 in the morning. I can't sleep past that, and I don't sleep well anyway because of my bladder condition. So I think this is a huge, huge, huge culprit in a lot of my issues. So sort of a triangle of anxiety or pain, because pain causes anxiety, anxiety causes pain, and lack of sleep is contributing to both. So you really need to have about 15 to 20% REM sleep and 15 to 20% deep sleep. I've got a Fitbit here. I looked at my wife's sleep curves, and she's having perfect sleep every time. I get so jealous. Mine is just, oh my god, it's awful. I virtually get 0 REM or deep sleep, but actually last night I got 12% of both. So I'm experimenting with supplements and things like that to try to get my sleep down, because I know that's a key factor. But I've read that people on Lamictal sometimes can disrupt sleep, but I did do this in the studies. It says it doesn't have a disruption in sleep architecture. Gabapentin also, in studies, is one of the only GABA drugs that supposedly doesn't cause a disruption in REM sleep, and actually can cause an increase in deep sleep. I increase my dosage at night. I don't even take it during the day anymore. Gabapentin, by the way, has a half-life of 5 to 7 hours, and so yeah, I take it 200 to 400 milligrams at night, and when I took 400, seems to be a sweet spot. I got a lot of deep sleep, which is awesome, which is what I need. So, and then stress by itself can cause disruption in sleep architecture and all of that stuff. So just be really careful about what you're taking, and do your research and go slow with it. If you're getting good quality sleep, it's going to go a long way to healing your brain, to healing your, you know, everything. So yeah, so anyway, I appreciate it, guys, all the feedback. It's always valuable to me to have other people sharing that they're having similar stories. But I guess the take-home message for me is, oh, and you know, share a little bit another story. I was sitting there at the gym last winter, feeling god-awfully detached, like I had for years. Just feeling so horrible, so miserable. Oh my god. And going in the gym and seeing all these people, and just like, wow. And I called my friend. I called several friends who all take antidepressants, who are doing amazing, including my sister, who had some really bad depression and anxiety issues when she was 13. Extremely bad, hospitalized from that. And she takes Zoloft now with Wellbutrin and does really well. And I talked to her, and I would talk to my grandmother, and I would talk to my other friend, like 2 other friends. And then I had a friend that said that he got drunk and tried to kill himself, and he went to the hospital and he got put on Prozac and Wellbutrin or whatever, and he felt amazing. He was just, they were just going on and on and on. I'm like, oh my God, all these people feel amazing and they're living life, and I'm sitting here and I can't even, you know, I mean, I was pushing myself to do things. I would go to the gym, I worked, I'd go to the store, but I was absolutely miserable doing everything. I just forced myself to do things that just made me miserable. I was miserable everywhere, no matter what I was doing. It didn't matter if I was hanging out with a friend, seeing my family, on a vacation. It didn't matter. I was miserable. Absolute. That's like how, I mean, it robs you of your entire livelihood. You can't even enjoy anything. So that was another step towards me wanting to take medication, or trying medication again. I'm very into staying off benzos, but I'm really hoping that, you know, lamotrigine, you know, can work on a higher. And I know people that take, holy cow, like 500 milligrams a day, and they're out there just doing their thing. They look fine. They feel great. So I don't know. I'm so worried about 75 milligrams. Obviously, after suffering what I did with the benzo situation, I wasn't very fond of trying another medication, but so yeah, so I'm sure you can relate to a lot of this, going through and then listening to people who are out there just enjoying life. It's like, man, I can't sit here like this anymore. And then if you get that stress relief, if you can find the right combination of supplements or lifestyle change or whatever it takes, but if you get that break from your fear, from your paranoia, from your depression, it's gonna heal. Your brain's gonna start to heal. That's why they call tianeptine and Lamictal and even gabapentin potentially neuroprotective, because they are neuroprotective. They allow the brains to heal. Because too much glutamate, by the way, and if you come off of benzos and you have a glutamate storm, a lot of the symptoms you're dealing with are because glutamate's killing. If there's too much glutamate, it kills the neurons. So you're having a lot of neuronal death. Neuron death. So it's very, very bad for the brain. And the brain slowly tries to heal itself, but it's very hard for the brain to heal itself when it's constantly firing GABA that it doesn't really have, out of receptors that are really weakened. So if you take Lamictal or NAC or some of these glutathione boosting supplements, you can help NMDA antagonists and so forth. You can help regulate your glutamate down a little bit. It's going to help your GABA sort of heal. And if you understand the methods and the mechanisms in the brain like I do, you really understand the architecture and what it takes to help out. And a lot of people explain like things to me like diabetes, and you have to take insulin. There's certain diseases out there you have to take medications for your body, for you to function and feel normal. I mean, that can be, you know, applied here too for certain medications. So just coming off benzos or just suffering through anxiety and suffering through depression, this is my big message. My message isn't take medication. My message is, if you're suffering with debilitating anxiety and depression and you're not treating it in some way, then it's not going to get better. It's going to cause further damage. So you need to get on some type of course of action, talk to a therapist, psychiatrist, a doctor, talk to anybody that is a professional that can help you figure out a plan of action. And you don't have to start with medications. Like I said, there is plenty of research out there about other ways to overcome these horrible conditions, and I'll be talking more about it. Thank you guys again. God bless you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.